Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I am Saukartika from PSI and I will be the moderator for the session. Today we are presenting Functional Breakpoint presented by Jeff Longworth. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the session, please click on the hand raise button so that you will be unmuted to proceed with the questions. Now without further ado, we will turn the time over to Jeff, our senior architect.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. Today I just wanted to show function breakpoints for C++. I'm hearing a little echo. I don't know if other people are too. Anyone else been hearing an echo, or is everyone else audio okay?
The audio is fine, Jeff.
Okay, must just be my computer. I have already connected to a system, and I've loaded a program. This program is an SO called Function 1, and it has two sources, Function 1 and Function 1 CLS for class. I'm going to go ahead and just open it to show a cross-reference here. Move to the beginning. Here are the different functions that are in Function 1. When we expand over here in the load set view, you'll see that for Function 1, we show the different functions. The main Function 1 here. And notice these other names aren't looking very well. These are actually the compiled generated name of all the different functions that are called, both internally and if they're internally within the source. We are currently working on to clean this up a little bit, but you usually can make out, like it says add name, and that would be this function here, and delete name, delete item number. So usually visually you can do it, but I just wanted you to know in the release later this year you'll see these names more correctly, not only with the name, but it will show the parameters in case you're overriding a function or a method like in C++. Just as said, also the reason I opened this up, I want to show that this, just for the example here, add name is an internal static function. It can't be called external, but delete name is external, but they both show up just fine in here. So function breakpoints are valid for internal functions, but also external functions within your source file. So you come in and you just choose the function or functions that you want to do. You can either right click and say set function point, and you'll see the little icon change, or right click and remove it. Or you can left double click is what I just did, and that sets it. And I left double click again and it turns it off. This is the second function I have. It's actually a class. And you can see with the name a little short, I'm going to go a little bigger here. Actually, this class does the same thing as these internal functions here did, only as a class. And I have add name, delete delete item, and so on. I'm also going to just set up function breakpoint for one of those. Since we can't have a smaller simulated system, I'm just going to create an ECB into the program, and I do have two screens here, so excuse me when something shows up on the other screen. So under the create ECB, it just stops at the beginning. Had nothing to do with the function breakpoints. And if I go into my trace and I can hit step, which I'm going to do F10, function F10 to step. At this point, it recognized I hit one of the function breakpoints. In this case, is the delete item number. So not only did it stop at the top of the function, it also automatically locked into source view this source file. So now you see function 1 and the little icon here that's locked in, and the break execution is set in here. So at this point, I can just continue my trace normal if I want to. So if I wanted to do something like to run to cursor, for instance, I can just set my cursor and say run to cursor. So the function breakpoints are still out here, but I can do normal tracing, step in, step out, and everything. I'm going to do a run, which normally would continue the process all the way to the end, but I still have this other function breakpoint that will end up getting caught later. So I hit run. The function breakpoint it caught function 1 class, and I got get name will delete all items within that object in that method, in that class. So hit run again. So the active ECB is ended, as you see, the function breakpoints are still there for the next time I set up my trace. Now, in this case, this was a loaded program that I loaded to the system. If I wanted to trace a program that's in production in the system or something I did not actually do, I can do add SO to view. This is the standard function. Again, I just went to 2 screens, so let me grab my little dialog. I enter the name of the SO. And this SO, it's also SO, has C functions in it, and I could set function breakpoints here. And then when I execute, it would stop on those. So that's C function breakpoints. It's applicable in C. It's done through the load set view window, load list view window. That's where you have to set the function breakpoints by indicating the SO name, either from something you loaded or do the add SO, and then actually selecting the function or functions you want. Since this was such a short topic, I was going to show something else that's coming down the line with functions, but before I do that, I want to know if there's any questions dealing with function breakpoints.
We have a question from Jordan Hovis, and let me unmute him so that he can proceed with his questions, Jeff.
Okay.
Jordan, you can proceed with it.
Hi.
Thank you. I typically trace with async resources, and what I wanted to do is stop only if that function is executed during the processing of that, of whatever program whatever function I'm setting up.
Okay, that's actually the sneak peek of what we're working on that's coming in the next release that's going to show. So I will be showing that in just a second, how to set up a function breakpoint while for asynchronous trace. Did you have, besides how to stop that function point, I'll just go ahead and show it since you're on the line here. So there, in this case, asynchronous trace can be very unique to a company and different options can be specified. This one here is actually just a function breakpoint, and I enter a program. I'm going to go ahead and clear all this just because that was left over from before. But to set the function breakpoint, you specify the SO name. This is the same as I did the add SO earlier. And you can either, if you know your function name, let's say if you really did know the typing correctly and you knew it was called program 1 or something like that, and then something followed, you could be like that. And we would look for something that said program 1, or if you said knew it started with a program underscore test, you could do it like that. Semicolon separates different ones, so it might be function. But you may know it that way, but it's a lot easier to just use the browse feature. So put in your program name and hit the browse. It will go to the system and get the list of all the different functions for all the different programs or members in there. You notice in this case, AP4A1, CA1, these are all the different C sources, DA1, EA1, and FA1. And then for each one of them, these are the functions that exist. So you just simply select by left-clicking on the different ones you want. You can select as many as you want, or you didn't really mean to do it, you can click again and unselect it. When you say OK, it's going to bring whatever you selected, and now it's going to show it in the real long format that we're going to stop very, very specific. Source AP4A1 and dot is what we happen to use here, the function name, and then open paren and any params there happen to be, in the exact format that we're kind of looking for. If you said, oops, I don't see what I want, you just do browse again. It's going to remember what's in that dialog that we just brought up. And even if I say do additional tests, so if I would have selected everything and I think it starts to do additional and said asterisk and browse, he's going to remember the function names called do additional and highlight those for you automatically. But when you say OK, it's going to actually bring them in. So that's how you'd set up the function breakpoint for asynchronous trace. When you say OK, and I don't know if I even said OK on this test system, it is a newer thing, you'll get your asynchronous trace, and now when the ECB comes into APE4, we're going to realize it's a function breakpoint. So we're going to wait until one of those functions are executed to stop the ECB or capture the ECB. If it stops any of those, it'd come up, and at that point you can continue tracing. that answer your question?
Yes, as long, and the biggest thing for me is don't stop at the program unless I hit that function. And it sounds like
Correct.
that's exactly what you did.
That's exactly how it is. I didn't go to the point of actually doing an ECB to get into this program, but that's exactly how this works. It won't stop until it hits to that one of those functions that you specified. And asynchronous trace, like I said, can be customized per customer. So you could actually combine this feature with, let's say, if you want to look for a certain register or a certain value in a certain ECB area, you can actually combine those into one asynchronous request. And not only would it stop on that function, it would also verify that that register is a certain value. And if not, it won't stop. It would only stop when, so you can actually do it and an or with different options. But this is the main point, is stopping on the functions.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Okay, and that's, we have coding done, it just hasn't all been implemented. This release, each customer is a little different. Some of them have it out as beta right now. I would expect within the next couple of months everyone would have this feature at least available to their company. If they're, you know, each company takes different speed on the way that when they implement our new changes.
So how long before we Travelport get this feature?
Travelport has it in real early beta right now. It is in there, but it's actually TSI that is testing that's there on the Travelport system. So I'm not sure if Naveen's on the call, if he could answer when he thinks that would be a month or production. I'm not sure.
And you're talking about just straight function or function with EBW or whatever else we want to plug in?
All that. And this would be the other one. I like I said, I had it separate, but if I go system and I say Synchronous Trace, we now have where you have the, I'm looking for the EBW thing, capture program with register, ECB fields. So this is very similar. You can say a SO name, and we go through and grab for your system what the different tags are, and you can select the tag that matches what you're wanting, or you can start typing and it would have grabbed it. And offset, it'd be an offset off of that tag. So if you didn't want the first byte of it, you want the second. Range is, I want to do 1 byte or 2 bytes within a range of 10 bytes. And your type of compare, you're looking for equal, not equal to, less than, etc. And the actual data that you're comparing and what that compare data is, hex or character or decimal.
And this will interface with the function trace, or are they separate still? I want a function trace with this is what I'm asking. Is that happening?
That's what I'm saying. Anything you see in asynchronous trace can be combined.
Okay.
It's a configurable thing. It's not a programming thing. Once asynchronous trace has a feature like function breakpoint, ECB field, register thing, any of those can be combined into one dialog. So if we wanted to say function breakpoint and ECB, it's a configuration that can be done at Travelport where those options would be combined without any coding change. It's just a configuration option that we set up for you guys.
Yeah, I've seen that file. Okay, that's exactly what we wanted. Thank you.
Okay.
I got this.
Are there any other
questions? I can work with you.
Does anyone else have any questions about regular function breakpoints, which is entries that we're already tracing? That's the difference between asynchronous and a regular function breakpoint. Regular function breakpoint, you did the entry from zTPFGI or asynchronous trace, and you've already captured it, and now you're tracing, you want to stop in certain functions. Or what I've just shown here is our asynchronous trace, which means an entry comes into the system not from zTPFGI, and you want to capture at the point of a function field or an ECB field or some other criteria. I know this was fairly straightforward. Ask one last time. Any other questions on function breakpoints or asynchronous trace function breakpoints? Okay. If not, are there any general questions? Stump Jeff Day if you want. Is there anything that you've been wanting to ask TSI? I can't guarantee I'll know the answer, but I can at least try. Well, that's all I had for this webinar. It's kind of short to the feature that we have, but that's kind of sometimes good. It's kind of straightforward.
Okay. Jeff, there's a question from Logan.
Okay.
I would unmute you, Logan. Please proceed with your questions, please.
Yeah, I was wondering, we were working with Praveen here for a while, and he was saying that we were going to have a web API training sometime soon, and I was just wondering if you guys had any dates for that yet.
I think that'd be a Naveen question probably. The question was there going to be some web API, which I'm not quite sure what that means, training at Travelport?
Hi, this is Naveen. I think now.
Yeah.
Jeff, can you hear me? Okay, yeah, it is being beta tested right now. I think in a couple of weeks it should be there for beta users. Yeah.
The web API training?
No, sorry, I'm talking about
the question.
Not the web.
The question was about some training for web API.
No, I think we are still in the scheduling, so it would be given.
Okay. So it sounds like it hasn't been set up yet.
Okay, I just wanted to let everybody know that my team is interested in doing that training.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And for everyone else on the call, what is web API? When you say that reference?
There's like a JavaScript API that they've built so you can have like a web page or something that uses JavaScript, and it goes in. It's for the add-ins. It's part of the add-ins, so you can have it go in and do a bunch of stuff for you that you normally trivially do, you know, a bunch of different things. Yeah.
Right. That is part of the source control management. Not source, I'm sorry, wrong word. But add-in manager here. And you can go in and you can create a script, like you said, a JavaScript. It's not necessarily, it has to be a web, but you can create a script, and JavaScripts are examples. And you got interface to zTPFGI, so there's a list of functions that within your own written JavaScript that it can do different things. You might already be connected to a system. It might say, I want to create an ECB or step or turn on trace options, and even do commands over to Linux and query a disk or something. So yeah, and that there is quite a bit of things to that. That's there. One of the things I know with the interface we made is you can actually promote a script. If you test out a script and you like it, you can promote it to everybody else in the company automatically through your zTPFGI. So they can then use the script if they want. And of course, then you own it and you can modify it, or you can give up ownership to somebody else if you're no longer involved in that area and you want someone else to own it. But so we got quite a few different little enhanced features in there besides just the scripting, way to sharing the scripts and maintaining them.
Yeah, and I guess so. We had like a basic training on basic add-ins, and I think what I mean is there was going to be like a more in-depth one that was more based on kind of what you were saying, the JavaScript stuff, and there's like a zTPFGI server that runs, and we just kind of wanted to learn a little bit more about that stuff.
Okay.
If you have any questions, please click on the hand raise button or enter your question in the chat box. A gentle reminder, if you have any questions, please click on the hand raise button so that you will be unmuted to proceed with your questions, or you can enter your question in the chat box. Sian, I have unmuted you. Can you just go ahead with the questions, please?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. What I test in TSBD, and I do capture asynchronous and TBTH in GUI. I get two systems, TSBD in Vista and TBTH in GUI.
Okay.
And then we have a fly Delta connect to Air4, the VS. And then when I capture GUI in TVTH, any reason why I have to do TS macro first in order to get to the source view on following program that enter? Because I cannot trace directly to source view on the program that I want.
Okay, and which system, and which company is this?
It Delta. It
Delta?
It's for Delta.
Yeah, TSBD.
So you're saying the program you want to trace in doesn't, the production copy of the source view is not there? You always have to manually source view it first?
No, I have to manually do with the previous program to do macro trace first. And then when that program enter to the program that source view, then I can do source view. Any reason why I had to do macro trace, like program A enter to program B, and the program B, I had to do source view on B.
Okay, is program B selectively loaded, like you had updated and loaded it?
Yeah, right. I select.
Okay, the question, I'll reword your question if it's okay for everybody. The question is, if I'm updating a program and I load it to the system selectively, why can't I just stop asynchronous trace in that program? Instead, I have to stop in a program before that calls it and do my asynchronous trace for that, so I can then have the process, the ECB branch in. And it's actually connected, when you load a program selectively load, we know that because you're connected to your trace, your ID, and no one else has that. But when an ECB comes into the system, it doesn't know about you. It's not really yours yet until you do the connection. So it doesn't really ever actually enter to your, it doesn't get your copy of the program, it gets the base copy of the program if you just let it trace through there. Now that's one thing, so the program may not even be there if it's a brand new program. But if you've made updates, it's kind of a limitation of the debugging that we can do within zTPF. If we stop it in the program that you selectively loaded, we can do selectively loaded anything after that point, but once a program is brought in, and it would have originally been brought in as not selectively loaded, it would have been the base copy of the program, not the one you loaded, there's no way for us to refresh it with your selected one. So the workaround is what, number one, catch it earlier, like you're doing, and you don't really have to do macro, macro, macro. You should be able to do the asynchronous trace and then load in your source view and set a breakpoint at the top and say run, and it should go there. That's one option. Or the other one is not to selectively load your program. If the other people aren't using that test system, you could load your program not selectively. And if you did that, you could stop it right in your program and it would work.
Oh, I see.
So those are the two reasons, and the answer is why is it that way? It's a, I don't know if it's a limitation, but there's not a feature within debugging of zTPF that would allow us to stop with one version of the program and automatically reload what you have on top of it and while we're in the midst stopped in it.
Oh, okay. It sounds like you answered my question.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Any more questions? If so, please click on the hand raise button so that you'll be unmuted to proceed with the question, or you can enter your question in the chat box. Jeff, it seems like we have answered all the questions.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much for attending today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, thank you everyone. We appreciate you being here. A short survey will open up. You can specify topics for the upcoming webinar session. We will send you webinar follow-up email within a week's time, which will contain the link of this recorded session. If in case of any queries, contact customer support executive or write to productsinfo@tpfsoftware.com. Thanks again for joining us today, and we have webinars followed on second Wednesday of every month. We'll see you next time. Thank you.